Akarsha here, reporting for the day 15 January 2020. UPSC Community Service in charge, working under the regime, gonna become a deputy range forest officer. Let me get to the straight. Yeah, as I said, going forward I'll be teaching forestry. See, we have 26 chapters to deal with. We are going to study each one of them on the basis of previous year question papers. No need to bother much about the question papers. Every questions which was asked in the previous exam were all listed down in this book in the very end of each lessons. So this book written by Manikandan and S. Prabhu is of immensely helpful for you if you are truly aspiring for Indian Forest Service. So going forward in a week I'll be making 2 to 3 videos consisting of max to max 5 to 6 questions. So we'll be discussing it together. But before doing that, I'm aware that my role is to communicate the whole information interpreted in this book in a much easier, simpler, interesting and an entertaining fashion. I swear to God I abide by that. So without any further ado guys, let's get into the top 5 questions of the day. Whoa, hold on, wait a moment, let me just remind you something. See, these questions and answers are not only just made for you only to get passed in the exam. My whole effort of making this content is to emphasize on the roles and responsibilities of your position. So once you get into the service, once you get in charge as a deputy range forest officer, my request to you people, whatever the things you're gonna learn up here, keep this in practice for lifetime and follow it religiously. Got it? Okay, the first question. Define vegetative propagation and discuss in detail the various techniques adopted in vegetative propagation. See, propagation is nothing but a process of plant reproduction. A plant can undergo 2 different types of reproduction. One is sexual reproduction and another one is asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, the offspring is produced by the fusion of male and female gametes, and that offspring is genetically different from parent plant. That's about the sexual reproduction. Now, coming to the question. See, this question is all about vegetative propagation. Here in vegetative propagation, a part of a plant like stem, root, leaf will be chopped into pieces, and the detained part of a plant, you can call it as a cutting, which is capable of regenerating the missing organs. That's how a new plant will grow, and that offspring produced by asexual reproduction is genetically identical to the parent plant. So now you have understood the vegetative propagation, right? So let's define the vegetative propagation. See, vegetative propagation is a process of plant reproduction in which a new plant grows from a fragment of the parent plant, and the new plant is genetically identical to the parent plant. We do follow the various techniques in vegetative propagation. They are cutting, layering, grafting. See, in cutting itself, we have several different types of cutting, like root cutting, stem cutting, herbaceous cutting, leaf bud cutting. We'll go through each one of them. In root cutting, a root of a parental plant having a length of 10 to 15 centimeters are chopped in such a way that the downside of the root will be angled at 45-degree while chopping, and the upside of the root will be chopped horizontally. This root cutting procedure is followed to make sure you keep the downside of the root to the soil, because see, if you keep the upside of the root to the soil, then root won't grow. So it's important for you to mark which is upside and downside of the root, and just to make a differentiation on both the ends of roots, you're gonna chop the downside of the root at an angle 45-degree. Remember that. Stem cutting. The best example for stem cutting is rose. You can grow a complete new rose plant just by planting the detained stem part of the parental rose plant. We use a saturated knife to cut the stem. Herbaceous cutting. Here the non-woody part of the plant is taken, especially the succulent stem part is taken. You know what do you mean by a succulent stem part? Meaning drought resistant. which means the part of a plant is drought resistant due to the development of water storing tissue. So we choose only the succulent stem part of the plant for herbaceous cutting. Leaf cutting. A leaf part of the plant is taken for the propagation. Here, a leaf is buried inside the soil and the new plant will grow from a leaf. That's about the leaf cutting. And the last one is leaf bud cutting. We choose a plant with the well-developed buds. We cut the stem into pieces so that each cutting has a short piece of stem, a leaf and a bud. So this is about the leaf bud cutting. Now moving on to the second technique of vegetative propagation, that is layering. It's a method of propagating a plant in which a shoot is fastened down to the soil. A shoot is bent down to the soil to form a root while being attached to the parent plant. We have different types of layering. They are ground layering, air layering, trench layering, tip layering, mound layering. We'll go through each one of them. The first one is a ground layering. A branch or stem part of the soil is bent down to the soil so that the roots will grow along the part of the stem that's underground. And we can detach that stem so that it will grow as a new independent plant. Air layering. We will remove the bark of the stem using a knife. We'll apply cinnamon powder and the garden soil to it and then wrap it up with a polythene sheet. Remember, we'll do air layering in the beginning of rainy season. Air layering can be done to the lemon trees so that we can get a more number of lemon trees. Trench layering. A branch of the plant is chopped from a parental plant and we're gonna slit the branch right behind every nodules using a knife. Reason being, we want the new roots to grow over the stem wherever we have slitted, so that once the roots are grown, we'll detach it from the parental branch and that will grow as an independent new plant. We'll do this technique for blackberry tree. Tip layering. The tip of a plant is buried in the soil so that the roots will grow and it give rise to a new shoot development. Later, we can separate the newly developed shoot as an independent plant. Mound layering. We create a mound, which means we'll put soil all over the stem of a plant which is already buried in the soil. What happens when we put soil all over the stem is the roots will grow over the stem where we have created a mound. So later we can cut the plants with the newly developed roots and we can plant it somewhere in the soil which grows as an independent plant. And the leftover stem of a parent plant which doesn't have a shoot will grow further. So in this way we can propagate the plant using mound layering, which is also called as stool layering. Grafting. It is the process of inserting a part of one plant into another in such a way that a union will take place and the combination will continue to grow as a single plant. We do grafting for mango tree. Question number 2. How forests are classified in India? Discuss its significance in forest management. Before getting into the forest classification, let me tell you the objectives why we classify the forests. For study purpose, we will characterize the different forest types. So once we know there are different forest types, we will develop a suitable silvicultural management techniques for each forest type, in order to avoid the wastage of resources and to save money by avoiding failure. So now you got to know the objectives of forest classification, right? Note down. Number 1, for study purpose. Number 2, to develop suitable silvicultural management techniques for each forest type. Number 3, to avoid wastage of resources and to save money by avoiding failure. Now coming to the forest classification. See, the forests are classified into 7 different types. They are forest classification based on age, based on growing stock, based on regeneration, based on species composition, based on object of management, based on ownership, legal classification of forest. We'll go through each one of them. The first one, based on age. Based on age, we're going to classify the forest into 2 different types. One is even-aged management, another one is uneven-aged management forest. So even-aged management is nothing but all trees in the forest are within 25% of age from one to another. And the trees in the forest doesn't look like one is tall, another is small, all trees are comparatively look similar in shape, size, height. Some might differ due to the 25% age difference. Anyhow, since 25% age difference is allowed in an even-aged management forest, so essentially all this bunch of trees can be called as even-aged forest. Once the trees are grown enough, ideally it takes years to gather for harvesting. For example, the Oklahoma pine forest is often harvested for saw timber between 50 to 80 years of age. Here in an even-age management forest, we follow the rotational system for harvesting. We follow the clear-cutting methods. These strategies severely disturb the soil and habitat and give minimum income from thinning over 25 years. And this type of forest yields one major harvest in a lifetime. Uneven-aged forest. A stand with the trees of 3 or more distinct age classes, either intimately mixed or in small groups. Such trees will come under the uneven-aged forest category. See, uneven-aged forest is a natural approach to timber. Uneven-aged management is an alternative method that sustains the forest cover, provides income at a more frequent intervals, minimizes the regeneration costs, and provides many wildlife habitat and recreational benefits. Uneven-aged forest management is a right choice of forestry practice for business. Coming to the second classification of the forest, that is forest classified based on growing stock. See, growing stock is nothing but an indicator of forest health and productivity. We do measure the health and productivity of forest by considering tree wealth, how much amount of carbon is present in it, how well the stem is distributed in a different diameter class, its volume, its biomass. We do consider all these factors and classify the forest as normal forest. Another one is abnormal forest. Normal forest is a forest which has a normal age gradation, normal increment, growing stock. See, normal age gradation in the sense it is the presence of tree of all ages from 1 year old to the rotation age. And the normal increment in the sense it is the best or max increment attainable by a given species for a given rotation. So once the annual harvest or the periodical harvest is done, it can again attains to the normal increment. Thus the harvest can be continued indefinitely without endangering the future yields. So this type of forest will give more sustained yield and the most ideal one. Coming to the abnormal forest. Abnormal forest is one which is not normal, that is growing stock, age, class, distribution of stems, increments, etc. are either in excess or more usually in deficit than the normal forest. Abnormal forest gives irregular yield and not the ideal one. The third forest classification is based on regeneration. Here we classify the forest as high forest, and another one is coppice forest. High forest is the one which is regenerated from seeds, and the coppice is the one which is regenerated from the coppices. See, coppices is an area of woodland in which trees or shrubs are periodically cut back to the ground level to stimulate the growth and to provide the firewood or timber. Fourth type of forest classification is based on species composition. Here we classify the forest as pure forest and mixed forest. Pure forest is the one which is mostly composed of one single species. The proportion of main species should not be less than 80%. And the mixed forest is the one which is composed of 2 or more species. Here at least the canopy of one species must be more than 20%. Got it? Fifth type of forest classification is based on object of management. See, here we classify the forest as production forest, protection forest, fuel forest, farm forest, recreational forest. Production forest is nothing but the overall area of the forest is designated for the production of wood, fiber, bioenergy or non-wood forest products. And the protection forest in the sense its value lies in regulating the stream flow of water and preventing the soil erosion and avalanche rather than its timber. And the fuel forest. firewood, grasses, anything which is combustible biomass found in the forest will become the fuel forest. And the farm forest, it's an holistic approach to integrating trees into a farming landscape. Recreational forest, we raise flowering trees and shrubs mainly to serve as a recreational forest for the urban and rural population. The sixth type of forest classification is based on ownership. State forest, private forest, community forest, panchayat forest all come under this category. The seventh type of forest classification is based on legal classification of the forest. Here we have reserve forest, protected forest, village forest. The third question is, list out the differences between silviculture and silvics. See, we'll write down. For the first point, we're going to write the definition of both of these terms. The definition of the silviculture is, it's a branch of forestry which deals with the development, establishment, care and the reproduction of stands of timber. In silvics, we study the life history of trees with respect to the environment under different climatic conditions. And for the second difference point, look at the term silviculture. It contains silvics in itself. Silviculture is a broader term, reason being it is the science dealing with both theory and practice. See, this is the third difference point. Whereas the silvics is all about the theory, so it is just a part of silviculture. So just by looking at the term silviculture, we can list out two different points. That is difference number 2 and 3. Got it? See, the silviculture deals with the procedure of obtaining natural regeneration under various systems and methods. Whereas silvics deals with the study of trees and forests as a biological units, last governing the growth and the effect of environment on vegetation. And the last difference is, silviculture is the application of silvics and the silvics is the principle of silviculture. The fourth question is, enumerate the classification of tropical dry deciduous forest given by Champion and Seth in the year 1964 and mention 2 species for each forest type. So here comes the classification of the forest, that is tropical dry deciduous forest, and the first column refers to the forest type. There are 2 forest types as mentioned, that is southern and northern tropical dry deciduous forest, and the second column refers to the distribution, that is these forests are distributed in the respective places as mentioned, and the third column is about the climatic requirement. So the fourth column is species composition. As you can see, there are many species mentioned, but the most common one for both forest type is Diospyros. Just remember that. Comment critically on the failure of forest plantation. See, successful tree planting doesn't happen by chance. It requires thought, planning and attention to detail. Otherwise, there are factors beyond everyone's control which contribute to the failure of forest plantations, like dry weather, extreme drought, severe freezes. However, there are a far greater number of factors totally within the human control that contribute to the tree planting failures. They are timing of planting, storage, handling, seedling quality. Tree planting techniques are the most commonly overlooked aspects that can make or break the success of forest plantation. We are done with all 5 questions. I surfed online, did a little bit of research about conveying this, and honestly expressed to the best of my understanding. However, learning is never a one-way approach. We can't learn everything all by one go. Learning earnestly demands one to have an interaction with the various sources of knowledge. That's how many things will come to light. So feel free to point out the mistakes about my understanding of these concepts. I don't get offended by any of your comments. You all are welcome to share your perspective, but keep your comments related to the topic. Because ultimately, my whole effort of making this content is to help the Indian Forest Service aspirants to find a breakthrough in their exams. That's all I want. Only an angels can do this type of work, da. If you are watching and listening to me all the way from the beginning to the end, then you must have been an angel too. You're my kind of person. I love you for that. Thanks for holding me up. See, we'll be close forever. Just do me a favor. Spread this message to everybody and make sure you subscribe to the channel and escort me for lifetime. Got it? Love you. Take care. Bye-bye.